Calling the special joint meeting of the Public Works and Utility Committee and the Plan Commission together. Or to order. Roll call by, for Plan Commission.
Maloney,
Here.
Cronin,
Here.
Gow,
Here.
Gerndt.
Here.
And I just remembered that Joe Jordan was going to be out of town. He was going to try and call in, but I'm guessing he's not in. Minell,
Here.
White.
Here.
Oh, and then roll call for Public Works.
Here.
Beanie,
Yeah, here.
Ziegler,
Preempted you. What's next? Ziegler. Ziegler, oh, here.
Hubbard,
Here.
and Zagami.
Here.
Okay.
Communications, opportunity for citizens to be heard once. I like that. Opportunity for citizens to be heard twice. Opportunity for citizens to be heard 3 times. Hearing none. Moving, number 5, written course communications received. Anything, Valerie? Nothing received written?
Nope, nothing received written.
All right, thank you. New business. Number 6, Scofield Avenue corridor draft plan presentation. Okay. You, Mark Crawford?
Still getting the packet up.
Oh, okay.
Hold on a second. So we have Mark on the line.
Hey, Mark.
I know some of you have not seen this, some of you were involved in this. We actually had this all ready to go right before COVID hit last year. So right around this time last year, we were planning to take this to public hearing. The original draft had been done as a Plan Commission and CDA project. We held an informational meeting with the public. It was more or less like an informal public hearing. We just didn't have it noticed. So we're just bringing this back up. Mark's got a short presentation just for those of you who were not involved in the original plan.
Just for clarification, Jen, is this the plan that we're looking at?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I see my spooky face on the screen behind there. It's a little intimidating. I appreciate being able to participate by Zoom. I've been in my car for the past 2 days with a bunch of stinky kids, so it was nice to not have to drive any further north. And so what I'm going to do is share the screen, and I know we're focused on Schofield Avenue because it has been a while since we've taken a look at this. And then I think the idea towards the end of the meeting, and Jen can correct me if I'm wrong, is we'll talk about next steps for both Schofield Avenue corridor plan and the Weston Avenue corridor plan as well.
Mark, can I just pause you for a minute?
Yes.
I know Planning Commission got this packet that Lauren referred to Public Works.
Yep, everyone got
Oh, they
the
did.
link.
So everybody's got one? Okay.
It's actually been out on the website
Okay,
since
all
we
right,
got
sure.
it.
Never mind. Go ahead.
You bet. So you have in your packet a multi-page document that is the draft Schofield Avenue corridor plan. We actually began with this process in 2018, so it's been a long time coming to get to this point. We had in late 2019 a fairly significantly sized public meeting in that room there, where we had, I would say, 30, 40 property owners along Schofield Avenue come and listen to a draft presentation on the plan and have a chance to ask questions and make comments. Since that time, we've obviously had COVID and other things that had taken priority, but we have gotten a revised draft now in your hands with some, I would call them modest changes around several edges, but no large change in theme. So if I'm going to start sharing my screen and bear with me as I get the presentation up and running. So like I said, I've got some information on the Weston Avenue corridor plan in here as well. We have been working with staff on a revised draft, a draft plan. That plan is is in staff review now. It's another 50, 60-page document, and you'll be seeing that very shortly as well. The purpose of the plan, I'd like to talk about the purpose, particularly the Schofield plan, talk about the overview of that plan, and then, you know, open it up as quickly as possible to your questions and comments with, I think the ultimate goal is to see if we're ready for public hearing on both of these corridor plans. Pardon me, with this preliminary information, I was beginning to assemble a presentation for the public hearing. So we've gone through this quite a bit, but just in review, a corridor plan, these are both part of the proposed part of the village's comprehensive plan, intended in both cases as a springboard for economic development and for future development and zoning decisions. But almost as important as that, if not more so, for Weston Avenue as a blueprint for implementing public improvements in a correspondence with the tax incremental district project plans, particularly TID number 1. And as I stated this over and over again, it's a guide for property owners and developers that live or have businesses along the corridor, but there's no requirement that they participate in the ideas within these plans. The Scofield Avenue corridor planning area, just in review, it extends from the western village limits all the way to the, more or less to the Ryan Street intersection area, and then covering a quarter mile, usually a little bit less, to the north and south of Scofield Avenue proper. So it's not just the properties along Scofield Avenue, but it has recommendations for a little bit deeper than that as well. And broadly speaking, this is the proposed vision for the Schofield Avenue corridor plan. I highlighted a couple of key terms. Some of the ideas here is to work in collaboration to increase commercial service and retail activity, grow opportunities for restaurants and other hospitality related businesses. As part of that effort is to encourage the mixed use and in some cases residential redevelopment of projects to kind of create a built-in market or additional built-in market for local retailing and commercial services there. And then another idea is to enhance, improve, and manage traffic flow and safety, and include some beautification for the Schofield Avenue portions, particularly east of Birch Street. So we divided this corridor and the Weston Avenue corridor into 3 different districts to help zero in on what are otherwise, 3-4 mile length corridors. For the Western District, as some of you may recall, we had some maps that showed recommended future land uses and development patterns, and then a second map that showed some concepts for some potential key redevelopment sites along the corridor. So the Western District extends roughly from Business 51 to Birch Street. This is a zoom now of that area. The colors represent different future land use recommendations. Pink is generally commercial. Orange is mixed use, and the mix here we're talking about is commercial with residential opportunities, and you'll see some of that on the next slide I share. And then the browns and yellows are predominantly residential future use of different densities. We did make some adjustments to this map since the last time the Plan Commission saw it. They include a slightly different concept for the realignment of Cutoff Road as it connects into Schofield to the west from what you saw. And some other minor tweaks and adjustments on this map that are even less significant than that. The idea for the Western District is to really continue to focus on commercial service and retail development, especially near the major intersections there where there's traffic control. To encourage consolidation of smaller parcels that are otherwise challenging to redevelop on their own with modern commercial and mixed uses. And in between the major intersections to enable both commercial uses plus multiple family residential development and mixed use development as well. So we talked quite a bit over the years, I suppose, so that's why we would talk about mixed use or multifamily along Scofield Avenue, particularly this segment. These are a few of the reasons: more commercial customers, housing for the workforce, not only along Scofield Avenue, but for the business and industrial parks in Weston, housing for folks that are just starting out, and for folks that are looking to downsize from their existing single-family homes. And also to diversify a land use pattern along the corridor where we're increasingly dealing with a challenging retail market, which has been hastened by COVID and people's spending patterns, which continue to evolve. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got within each of these Western, Central, and Eastern districts in this corridor plan, some opportunity sites for redevelopment. With the general idea of trying to inspire people to think about how sites might be consolidated and redeveloped based on property owner interest over time. In particular, in this Western district, many, if not all of these sites are within, or at least partially within, tax incremental district number 2, which could provide another tool to help implement and carry out some of these redevelopment concepts. So I know there's been discussions among staff and among the property owners in certain cases here about these concepts. And way back when, we did talk to most of these property owners that are within these affected areas. So for each of these sites, we've identified a potential layout of commercial buildings, which are represented generally in red, mixed-use buildings in purple, and residential buildings, mostly of multifamily or townhouse scale, in yellow, and then how they might be connected with roads and driveways and stormwater features that would need to be accommodated as well. All of this has a fine print to it. The fine print are basically to remind folks that these are intended to show general opportunities and forms of potential projects. They're not intended as any sort of requirement for redevelopment or any particular layout, but rather, both the conceptual layouts and the pictures are meant to kind of inspire ideas and further discussion for change. Moving a little bit further east, the Central District extends from that Birch Street intersection over to Von Kennel along Schofield Avenue, and again points a little bit north and south of the road itself. One of the key concepts for the Central District is to extend the commercial activity a bit further east from where it currently terminates, more or less, to ultimately connect where Weston Lanes is obviously a big commercial draw on the east side back to Camp Phillips Road with commercial and retail service activity predominantly. Like the Camp Phillips corridor plan before this, the Central District also recommends improvement of Scofield Avenue, Camp Phillips intersection. Just the actual intersection itself is in disrepair. It doesn't function terribly well, especially during rush hour. And then more broadly, to talk about improvements for the function and appearance of Scofield Avenue, which, as you head east of Birch Street, the streetscaping improvements and the design of the road is different. And we'll talk more about that moving forward here. The central area, we also identified some opportunity sites. Again, you'll see this kind of mixed use flavor and concepts, particularly as you get a little bit further off of Schofield Avenue with transitioning from the red commercial concepts to the purple mixed use and ultimately yellow residential, in this case, potential for multiple family residential development southeast of Birch and Schofield Avenue. Again, intended to inspire some ideas and for potential change in those areas. In most cases would at least advise the consolidation of some sites that were created, in many cases decades ago, and in many cases for single family houses some of which are still out there today. Finally, the Eastern District, our conceptual development plan, this extends from Von Kennel to Ryan Street. We didn't go further east than that because the land use pattern is pretty well established with the business and technology park to the east of that area. So that was our terminus, sort of that greater Orion Street intersection for this corridor plan. For this area, the general idea is to continue to support the Western Commercial Center south of where you're sitting right now as a incubator and accelerator for small industries, contractor shops and the like. Place to get started with your business. And if you desire to remain small, it's a place to continue the business. The plans evolved a little bit over the past couple of years as we now talk about the repurposing the municipal campus for a potential commercial development, or perhaps additional small site industrial development like it exists to the south of Scofield Avenue in your area, or some combination. And here again, we talk a little bit about improving the function and appearance of Schofield, more on that in a second. And finally, as I'll go to the next slide, it'll be more clear to enliven the current intersections of Fuller and Old Costa as a commercial and recreational destination, more so than they even are today. This is a zoom in of that particular area. The concept that we've discussed over the last couple of years is realigning Fuller Street to align with Old Costa to the south where it currently exists, closing off the current intersection of Fuller Street, but providing continued access to all the properties around it, and promoting commercial and residential development along that realigned intersection area. I've teased that we talked about road improvements for Scofield Avenue. They're not as significant as the things we've been talking about for Weston Avenue, but they are, I think, noteworthy and a big part of the Scofield Avenue corridor plan. The idea being to improve the traffic flow, safety, and appearance, with the recognition that it probably makes the most sense from a financial and a traffic flow and safety standpoint to focus on the major intersections, the road intersections that Schofield has with other intersecting roads. So the draft plan includes what we call major intersection improvements for the streets intersections that you see listed there. And for the lesser traveled streets, I suppose, that would likely not have streetlights potentially over the foreseeable future, a lower level of improvement. And in between those areas to maintain the two-way left turn lanes that exist today. So significantly, I think for the corridor plan for Schofield Avenue, the concept is not to extend the level of improvements that exist to the west of Birch Street all the way to the east. It's something different and a little bit less grand, I suppose. So we've worked with a designer to lay out what this might look like at major and minor intersections. A lot of this corresponds with the wayfinding plan that you've seen in different settings as well. But this happens to be a concept for major intersections, that the idea that Schofield is sort of the east to west street, that at major intersections, again, those are the most likely ones we might see traffic signals if they don't exist already today, with the idea being that there would be left turn lanes introduced at those intersections for greater traffic control and safety. And you can see that depicted at various angles within these particular graphics. At some of those lesser street intersections where we may not expect traffic signals in the foreseeable future, or as much traffic as we see today, a little bit lower level of improvement being advised. Not as many and not as long of turn lanes, not as many enhancements in those intersection streets, street trees and other things like that, but still a reflection of that. So the concept is for the Scofield Avenue as you head east is certainly work to, like, with the county to improve and reconstruct the intersection with Camp Phillips Road. But at the several other intersections, those would be the focus of improvements with the current design, with the two-way left turn lane remaining for most of the rest of the corridor. That's what I have to share about Schofield Avenue. I think it's a good time for me to pause and see what questions or comments you may have on the substance of this, and then we can talk about Weston Avenue for a while, or we can talk about where we go from here with both of these projects.
Lauren?
This is Lauren White. In reading over the plan, I see on page 12, it talks about the Weston Business and Technology Park. We've had discussions about whether that's the correct name for that location or not, or whether we should change it, because folks here have an idea that doesn't include industrial. And in fact, it has kind of evolved into an industrial area.
Sure.
So
That is an interesting idea. I know we've talked in the past about, you know, whether is technology the right name? So, you know, we can certainly discuss the potential for renaming that in the plan itself, to maybe call it the Business and Industrial Park or something of that nature, as part of a rebranding effort. But, you know, the fact remains that there's several signs and other things that would have to probably change to make that happen fully.
Okay, well, I just wanted to mention that there has been discussions about perhaps that may need to be re-identified. And the other one I have is on page 16, under 2.3.4. It says TID 2 must also close by 2031. Is that the correct date in there?
They both close the same year.
They do, okay. That answers my question, thank you.
You bet.
What about questions going forward to public hearing? Any questions on that, Steve?
Well, maybe not on that. I guess I have a general question. I'm a little bit confused on, I guess, the nature of the plan. I understand that we've got to have smart growth. And I know we have a disclaimer saying that the property owners can participate in this plan if they want to or not. They're not being forced out of their properties and so on. I understand that. But I know in the planning committee, we've had situations where somebody had made reference, some of the staff employees, that this isn't in compliance with the Scofield Avenue plan. We had one where I believe the overhead doors were facing the road, and that was just one of the reasons for not doing this. So I'm questioning what happens to the people that are not actually wanting to use it under this plan, or not wanting to use mixed use properties, or designated what we've kind of said, this is how the corner is supposed to look, or this is the use that we're going to have for this, or intended use that we're planning down the road. I'm just curious on what happens to the people that are kind of in a situation where, yeah, we don't want to participate, but you can't use the property because it doesn't meet the plan requirements. I don't know how to address that, or how to point that out and say, I don't want to hurt anybody that's currently a property owner in the village. And it just seems like getting this out here, saying this is what our plans are for the different properties, and even noting, I think I was reading it where it said that the plans aren't in compliance with the current zoning that's out there. So how does somebody, as a property owner, they get caught in a situation of not really knowing what to do with their property, or what's possible to do with their property? And if they come into, to the village for approval for something, I don't even know if we ever see that in our planning committee. I just pointed it out that it just seems a little bit confusing.
Yeah, well, I can try to address that. First off, you do already have a plan for the Schofield Avenue corridor. It's the village's comprehensive plan. And it basically suggests that the entire corridor will be commercial development. So, for example, anyone coming in with a proposal for industrial development or for residential development along the corridor would now be told, sorry, we can't accommodate that under the current plan, you would have to ask for an amendment to the current plan to allow that type of thing to happen. What we're trying to do with this corridor plan is to, I guess, modernize the recommendations for the corridor. And I think in certain cases and places, provide more flexibility than currently exists. So the Western District is probably a prime example of that, where, like I said, 100% of the frontage along Schofield Avenue is currently in the current village comprehensive plan identified for only commercial development. This particular plan says, oh, that's good, and you can do that. But in addition to that, we're providing a second opportunity, in particular in this Western Orange area, for mixed residential and commercial development, or even 100% residential development along Schofield Avenue. So I would say in that case, what we're doing with this corridor plan, or hope to do, is modernize the recommendations to better reflect market reality. And then secondly, to provide some additional flexibility for land uses that are currently not consistent with the comprehensive plan. So this is my first comment. The second one is that this is not always consistent with the current comprehensive plan or zoning. Absolutely correct. And if all we did was follow the current zoning, I guess we would be stuck in whatever year, 1960, that the village was first zoned. So the idea with updating plans is to think about changes in market conditions, landowner preferences, different development forms that are, radically different in some cases than they were 60 years ago, and sort of update the vision. And that's the idea. And then how that gets carried out is, first of all, with the comprehensive plan, future land use map, the idea would be to update it very quickly after this plan was adopted. So the future land use map for the entire village was consistent with the concepts here, and vice versa. And then the question of zoning and how zoning gets up to date, well, that can happen all at once, or more likely would happen when property owners come and request something. Most of this area that I've been talking about is currently zoned commercial, one of the commercial districts. I will lose track of them if I try to remember them. And that's fine, because that's consistent with this plan. But what this plan would also suggest is that, hey, if you have a concept for mixed use development or even residential development, we'll entertain it, because our plan now allows for that along this segment of Schofield Avenue. And then the final point I'll mention is that the thing that I wanted to emphasize about the flexibility was with particular respect to these redevelopment concepts. These in particular have that disclaimer that says, hey, this is one idea for how you might carry out this broad future land use pattern on these more general maps within this plan. It's not the only one. So I can't comment on specific proposals that have come over the last couple of years, but I would say if they're not consistent with these types of maps, these detailed opportunity maps, it's already covered, and you don't have to be consistent with these maps that show particular layouts or where a commercial building might go or might not go. I hope I've addressed your question. I know it's pretty darn complicated.
Well, Mark, you did highlight the orange area in the western area. And you did say residential, but you meant commercial below and residential above, correct?
That plus there is.
How would we do residential on Schofield Avenue? Mixed use.
It could be,
Well, mixed use, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Exactly.
I mean, not residential.
it could
And-
be like an apartment building,
Right.
like somebody put an apartment building and have a separate.
Yep, okay, all
Yeah,
right. So,
or just an apartment building on a
so
small-
Steve, your thoughts of someone maybe not wanting to go this route, but what else would they want on Schofield Avenue?
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying that.
We wouldn't let them build a home, because it wouldn't be the smartest thing to do is to build a home, and it wouldn't be industrial. So it has to be commercial, residential on top, or mixed use type thing on Scofield Avenue. So I can't imagine anyone else wanting to sell their land for a lesser value than that. Steve, you know what I mean? Steve, I understand the control thing.
Were you referencing, and I'm just gonna say this, were you referencing that if somebody came in and said, hey, we wanna put a Taco Bell right here, right? And this, and staff says,
The zoning would actually already be there for that.
okay,
Yeah.
and staff
This
might
is a
say,
situation where
are you
somebody wants to-
concerned with the control? Like, we don't have the option here, it's in planning's option.
Well, my concern would be
Yeah.
that our plan that we would approve or that was approved in 2021 said that was gonna be a mixed-use location. And you're gonna have retail on the front and residential on top. That might not meet the needs of a Taco Bell.
It could be.
Right.
Correct. But I think in that situation where Mark has got orange highlighted, commercial slash, you could be commercial strictly or commercial slash residential, multifamily or mixed use. So they're giving an option.
So the zoning map, the way this works, the zoning map would stay as it is. The plan just gives us the ability if someone comes in, because the state requires us to be consistent with our comprehensive plan. So right now, if somebody comes in and says, I want to do residential or I want to do mixed use, they can't. The zoning is only commercial and our future land use only shows commercial. So they would have to go through an amendment. So this actually gives us
more flexibility.
flexibility along the
Yeah.
corridor, because we don't know exactly what's gonna happen. When we did give this to all the landowners, I mean, they liked it, they just wanted something.
Well, within a half an hour, 45 minutes, half of them left. I mean, there was a few,
Yeah.
that I could name that stayed, that they just wanted to hear the whole thing, but mostly, I think they just wanted to understand what's gonna happen, and once they heard that, you're right. Lauren?
I think one of the main concerns that I heard was that the village was gonna force them to do something.
Right.
Not in the cards at all.
No.
So these plans that we're doing actually give them more, some more tools in their tool bag when they decide they want to develop.
Sell or develop.
Right, they don't have to do any of this right now, but it also, they can go to someone, they can give it to a realtor, they can give it to whoever's looking to buy it and say, this is what the village wants here. So it gives them a little bit more, flexibility and just, that they don't have to come in and they're gonna get turned down.
And they can work with a neighboring property to maybe combine two properties for a developer. It
Could be.
doesn't have a big enough lot, but he wants to add one.
Gary?
So Jen, in this situation, would an existing, let's just say, down kitty corner from the car wash there, the new car wash, Tommy wash, there's a residential property there. If they wanted to add an addition onto their house, is that frowned upon?
They're an existing use.
So they're okay to
and
do
the
that.
way- that would fall under the zoning. So the way the zoning reads, Scott can correct me, but as long as they're using it as residential, they can still, there's provisions in there that they can still use it as a house. It's just when they stop using it.
Yeah, for like, what is it, a year or something like that?
Yeah, it's the non-conforming laws.
Okay.
They-
All right.
It's something that, happens, it's a state law, so it's.
Because when you're commenting on a third garage or a sunroom, whatever, that's a yes.
Yeah.
But, okay, all right.
So I just trying to figure out what Steve's concern. Are you concerned, Steve, because are you afraid that we're turning a business away that might not be conforming to that particular lot? Or what are you?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's what I was reading.
I just don't have a comfort level there right now.
And initially, when Steve brought that up, I'm thinking the same way of the control thing. But then once I started realizing it, and then I heard Mark's
There's like three options.
and I just thought we're gonna go up
The
more,
garage
you're
sale
actually
that got brought up
broadening,
is actually a
you're
zoning
broadening,
issue,
because
not a-
if they wanna somehow put together a bunch of pieces and put industrial there, it ain't gonna happen. We're not gonna
Right, you're
allow
not
that
gonna
kind of
I
stuff.
don't think people, it would be
Industrial.
prudent
No,
for
I know,
people to do
but-
that, but I'm just saying that.
But you were looking out for their control as a landowner.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I'm still concerned that once it gets approved, because we always go, it seems like in the past, and I can just think over the last 10 years, that we've gone through a couple of map amendments, changes, to the document and everything. And then it comes back that, well, that's what was approved 4 years ago, or that was what was approved 7 years ago, or whatever it is. And now you're left here saying, with the new plan that was coming in, that we saw, that because he had garage doors that didn't have glass facing the,
Well, that was a zoning.
I'm just saying that this is, what you hear is that this was not in compliance with the plan, this Scofield Avenue plan, that we hadn't even looked at yet. This was 6 months ago, a year ago, whenever it was.
No.
That's just my thought.
You're right. Okay, I'm sorry, Gary.
Mark, could you go to page, your number 2, your Scofield Ave corner plan?
Page 2.
West section, it's the map number 2.
Oh. Which is,
1 second, please. I got the phone ringing in the background. My apologies.
So I'm just gonna use an example of
Did you-
site number,
Did you mean the presentation or the report? I'm sorry.
the map, the number 2, where it's got number 2 on the top.
where that one has number 1?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Page 20 of your, report.
Thank you, Lauren.
This is map 2.
Yeah, so section A, or just identify A. I think, Steve, maybe this example that you're asking, well, geez, part of that's pink, part of it is orange. Well, Jen, if I wanted to say, hey, I'm gonna do a commercial, residential mixed use, and I'm gonna go across both of those. Just because it's pink on one of them, and we're gonna combine those parcels, if we wanted to do a commercial mixed use, you could have the potential.
So when you look at our approved comprehensive plan future land use map, there's actually a footnote on there. I mean, you're gonna have some swing on some of these edges where it can kind of go either way. So
Okay. So it's flexible.
it is flexible.
So I think that's maybe where Steve may want to, understand as well, that, or have a reassurance that there's some flexibility with it.
And just so everybody knows, it's page 31. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mark.
I couldn't help it.
You bet. Sorry, I couldn't follow along and pardon me for the interruption. Yeah, and honestly, we could include a similar disclaimer, Jen, that you were referencing on each of these maps, where it's not so, as you know, you can see they're conceptual and some of these boundaries, intentionally don't try to follow property lines because they're intended to be general, and I don't know, I can't tell you exactly where the market is going to say you can do commercial. Can you do it 50 feet off of Schofield but not 150? I'm not smart enough to judge that. So I think it does make sense to include that similar disclaimer on these maps that we have on the future land use map within the broader comprehensive plan document.
Basically, this is just supposed to get us in the ballpark, right?
Right.
Okay. Anybody else? We want to move on to Weston, or you want to,
We have to vote whether or not to.
yeah, we can actually do this right now. What's your pleasure? We're looking, Jen, you're looking for,
I move to direct staff to schedule a planning public hearing for the Schofield corridor.
Second.
motion by Gall, second by White on the discussion.
I will notify all the property owners again, so we'll set up the public hearing. Probably will be towards the end of April. We'll probably have to do a special meeting, or we'll do the May meeting, just based on the statutory requirements for the hearing notice. But we notified everyone, we'll notify them again,
Okay,
and then let them have time to look at it.
okay. Any more discussion?
Are they gonna update this map?
Update the map.
Yeah. Because I see they don't show in front of a Target, that new building sitting there, which is a Pizza Hut, and
Oh, yeah, we could probably have Nate, I think Nate did these. You mean just update the parcels?
right, whatever is missing from it, I think they should add to it.
Yeah, it's new aerial underneath.
We can throw another area on.
So are we gonna kind of fine tooth comb this whole presentation? If we are,
We
then,
can if you want us to,
then-
we can
then-
update the map.
then just go up to the front where the names are in for committees. Because several people are gone.
Yeah, so we
Okay,
weren't sure
so-
exactly, cause I
Yeah.
put it back to the ones that were here when we did it. So if you
Oh, okay.
want to have the
Oh, okay.
ones, that's why, cause, yeah, Public Work is.
Well, it's
on
got a, well, Jared's on there, so it says February 21st of 2021,
But that,
and I didn't
they were the
understand
ones
which way.
working on it,
Okay,
so that's
got
why
it.
I put them back. They actually
Okay.
just changed it for me.
Okay,
And I could make note of that too, so it's clear to everyone. Obviously, it wasn't clear to you, Mark, so why we did it.
oh, that's right. I just don't want him calling Red Mountain, so, okay. No, I'm the thought of that. Okay, so any more in discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Public Works, is there a motion?
Move.
Motion by Zagami. Second. Second by Hubbard. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. And no opposed, no abstentions.
Okay. Number 7, Weston Avenue corridor draft plan presentation.
I'll spend less time on this because you guys have actually talked about this even more than I have in recent months. So you know the corridor planning area, of course, we're further south and a little bit, I'm sorry, I've got to move on here. The Weston Avenue corridor plan a little bit further south and east. Focus here is a little bit more on manufacturing and business park development, but still enabling retail, commercial service, and recreational development, both commercial-based and public-based, i.e. Trails and Prohaska Nature Center development. In this case, we're also promoting housing development in locations compatible with kind of a mixed-use environment. And as you know, the focus here is more about what should Weston Avenue become as we look forward over the next 5+ years. The road itself, and which is currently a sleepy road with not utilities along much of it. So this is the proposed vision for the Weston corridor plan. As I mentioned, we've divided this into 3 districts. I'll hit some highlights here because you've talked about this. We generalized the concept for that transport way area. You recall, some extended discussions about that. We still have the notion that we have at least a right-in opportunity close to the Camp Phillips Road intersection, and another access that would provide fuller access to parcels along Weston Avenue. We're working with staff to kind of articulate how best to lay out the discussions that you've had about what the private road is, the shared access road, and how the village might get involved in actually facilitating land transfers in this area. Again, you've had more discussions than me, so I hesitate getting into too much depth with stuff that I'm not as involved with. Other than that, there have been relatively few changes to this map from the last version you saw. The idea being predominantly commercial developments in the reds and oranges, predominantly business park or industrial park development as property owners see fit to sell or develop within the larger ownerships, particularly north of Weston Avenue in the purples, where we've got some of the last best places for larger site industrial and business park development in Weston. Central District is a little bit different story. We do have a concept, an organizing concept for extending Municipal Street potentially via an overpass over 29 and connecting it to Huron Street and doing business park development around that. But aside from that, the predominant future recommended land use is residential of different types and densities. So neighborhood development connected with roads and the environmental corridor network, which you see in green, providing opportunities for parks and trails and things like that. So that's the predominant theme here in the Central District as we looked further east within this area. What we do have also within this Central District is Prohaska Family Nature Center. This isn't a park plan for that area, in other words, a master plan, but we do have some additional ideas within a draft that you'll see shortly for how the village might undertake a master plan to start improving that as the predominant park facility south of Highway 2029. The Eastern District is perhaps the simplest of the 3, continuation of predominantly industrial development within this area. Especially north of Weston Avenue. As you head south, the availability of utilities and potential future uses gets a little bit murkier or more general. The sites southwest of Zinzer and Weston Avenue is identified as potential for recreational development. This could be golf course related or otherwise, or it could be some form of multiple family development, including workforce related housing. ideally without basements or lower level, given the soil conditions there, or it could be industrial development, although that area is outside of the TIF district currently. And then we have a final area that we've identified as you kind of head south on Jones Street across from the wildlife preserve, identified for potential future, long-term future development. These are large sites. They are high on dry areas. These are a few hundred acres of land. Power lines run through this area. It extends all the way to County J. If I were to redraw this, I'd say future industrial or residential. I think as you look forward, it could be, again, as utilities become available, as the business and technology park south fills up and service lanes, Zinser Street area fills up, this could be the next area. Or it could be a site for, a large industry or two that's shopping around for, 100 acres. And they don't come along frequently, but it's nice to be in the game when they do. So that's the general concept there in the Eastern District. You talked quite a bit and I think came up with a great preliminary solution for what to do with the roadway. We've got 3 or 4, depending on how you count, different alternatives. The idea being that a one-size-fits-all for improving Weston Avenue does not work very well. And so we should think about the corridor in segments and I'll just keep in mind these different alternatives here, alternative 4, 2, and then 1. The idea with 4 from Camp Phillips Road to about a quarter mile east would be a 4-lane divided urban roadway, not too different from how it looks to the west of Camp Phillips Road to accommodate for the commercial uses that we anticipate on both sides of the road and to transition into the current Camp Phillips intersection. Then as you headed further east, again, about a quarter mile east of Camp Phillips to Ryan Street, you have advised us to look at a 2-lane rural road with a 2-way left turn lane within the center of that roadway to accommodate the fact that we've got lesser traffic, we've got some existing homes and other uses that are pretty close to the roadway that may affect the ability and just, not the need for 4 lanes of traffic for the foreseeable future. Then what you advised as you head around the Ryan Street intersection all the way west to County Road J is a combination of alternative 1, which is just a 2-lane, upgraded 2-lane rural road, except at the intersections, like at Ryan or at the Business and Technology Park or Zinser Street, where introducing a turn lane, a center turn lane for left turns is advisable. In this area, we do have industrial traffic, but we also have significant constraints, environmental constraints, wetlands to the immediate south of the roadway, and other things that suggest that any wider cross section than what I've just shown might be hard to pull off. And I will also go on to say, and this is communicated in the draft report that you're going to see, is especially with limited access, in other words, where you don't have a driveway every 100 feet, you can get a lot out of 2 lanes, up to 15,000 cars per day. And I can tell you, we've got a fraction of that traffic volume on this segment today, and 15,000 is a long way off. So this was my last slide. The hope is that we can quickly turn around staff review of the draft that they have in their hands, that we might set a public hearing perhaps at a common date with Schofield, although that could change depending on the quickness of the review. Then both of these plans would go forward with a recommendation from at least the Plan Commission and adoption by the village board as part of the comp plan. And both of them lay out then a number of other steps, and including for Weston Avenue, actually redesigning, going through the engineering design for the road so that the improvements, both road and utility, could be executed before the sunset date for spending for TID 1, which is 2026. So I'll close my presentation on that, and again, open for questions and comments.
Any questions for Mark? Lauren?
Now, this is Lauren, Mark. I have not a question or an observation. I think if we hold these hearings on the same date, we may have some confused public there about which meeting are they attending, which one are we talking about? I have a concern about confusion. You know,
I was thinking actually of scheduling one like at 4 and the
One
other
at
one
6.
not starting
Okay.
until.
I agree.
I think that'd be
That'd
outstanding.
be better.
So having it set up that you're there.
And there's enough pause between the two.
whole evening. In the past, we've also included the board because they have to approve it for like comprehensive plans. So having everyone there together, hearing the same thing, hearing the public, so we don't have to have multiple meetings, especially with COVID, trying to limit.
Right?
This is Dwayne. I think you've had a lot of contact with the residents in that area already. And I don't know, did you have a public information meeting or you don't think we need one? Or have we had one already?
We had quite a few people here one night.
I know.
I don't know if you were here, but yeah. I've had several phone calls and, I thought, I think the gist of it is pretty good.
Okay, just ask.
And not to answer it for you.
Yeah.
At the public hearing, the public can bring up their concern. Doesn't mean we absolutely have to adopt it. Presented, we can make changes.
Yeah, and
After the hearing.
I'll do the same notification, so they'll get, and they'll have the ability to read it ahead of time. We're just fine tuning it. Keith has to finish looking at it. And it's mostly topographical, things that normally Lauren would find. And then we'll get that out to everyone and they can call, they can ask questions, they can come in to talk to us. Most of them have been calling and talking to staff already, or they listen in to on the meetings.
Sure. If they're ready, maybe I should amend the other motion we had and include Weston Avenue.
It's listed as separate, so.
Yeah, they're separate. You can do this. Yep.
Okay,
Your
thank you.
pleasure.
Someone else do it.
I move to schedule the, is it called a public hearing or is it
Public information.
public information?
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Yeah, on the Weston Avenue corridor plan on the same date as the Schofield Avenue corridor plan, not at the same time.
Second.
So moved by White, second by Cronin. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Public Works, Public Utilities, is there a motion?
Move,
Motion by Zagami,
hold the public hearing, same day at different time for Scofield Avenue and Weston Avenue.
Second.
second by Ziegler. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed, no abstention, motion carries.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Number
you for accommodating me. Good night, everyone.
We got one more here. Number 8, discussion and action. Does Mark get the lead?
Yeah, Mark does.
Oh, okay. Have a good night, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, good night. Take care.
All right. Number 8, and I'm only gonna give 1 minute to this. Discussion and action on proposed entryway sign locations. I'm kidding, of course.
Time's up,
I'll give you 3 minutes. So,
time's up.
yeah, time's up. Entryway proposed. Okay, so what are we doing here? Are we talking about 4 sign placements?
Yeah, so it would be 4 sign placements before we send out the RFP.
Okay,
And then, if, as you guys are looking for the map, if you see any entry signs that you either like added or taken out, that's an option too. There were just,
Okay.
4 spots that were a little bit confusing that I wanted to run by.
yeah. I wanna make a comment. Since a comment was made by Husheng one night about, giving you enough time to make that move to signal and to get ready to turn. So if you're going down Fuller Street and you're coming from the south and you're going, in the middle and you see the dog park sign, it's, I think it gives you enough time to decide if you're gonna hang that right. But if you're coming from the north, it's directly on an intersection. And I've noticed more and more of those since Husheng brought that up. And I think it's just something that we've got to address. And I think there's one by Ace Hardware too.
Right.
That just does not give you enough time. If you're in the right lane, you can't get to the left to get over to the DC Everest complex. And I think they gotta back some of that stuff up a bit. So I just think now's the time to do it. Whether that's where they were or that's where they decided to put them, or whoever did it, let's just get them right, so they're done right this last time, so.
Yeah, and that was our,
What?
that's our goal, once the ground thaws out.
Yep.
Get those signs moved to where they should be.
Okay, so now we have, an issue of these four, wait, are these all entry signs?
Yeah, so before the proposal goes out, we just wanna make sure we're all on the same page before all of a sudden we're talking about relocating signs.
Okay, so the first one is Mockmiller,
Yeah, I guess the entryway sign kind of coming in from that part of the village.
okay, so you're coming in from, you're going past Christensen Trucking,
It's on the curb, right?
and you,
Yes.
well, it actually is on the curb, correct?
Right.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's on the corner right there, right?
yeah, so the existing sign is,
Okay.
So that one, the one that's right at the entry to Mockmeadow Park it's kind of right on the road.
yeah,
And you're,
I think you're talking about the two top ones, that green one there, okay.
right, those are existing.
That's the Mockmiller Park sign.
Yep, so you wanna put the Mockmiller Park where the red dot is.
no, so the Montreal Park sign will stay, it's just the existing sign.
Oh, that
says-
one up there,
I know.
I gotcha, yeah, I think that makes total sense, for me, my opinion. What does everybody else think?
The village limit sign, for lack of a better.
Yeah,
I like placement number 1 on the north side of
the
Mount.
red one, yep, okay, good. Okay,
And you're talking about another sign down here at placement 2?
No, so that was the option.
well, you're already in Weston then, so you're almost saying, okay, you're in Weston, oh, by the way, you're in Weston.
Actually,
Where the red one up there is, you're in Weston.
Yeah,
Do we have to vote on this, or what do we have to do?
That's got a motion, you just
We have to do all that?
just did it.
All right,
well, there's
so you did a
So
motion,
I'll make a motion.
a motion on one for this first one here?
Yeah, I move to have the sign placed at, placement number 1,
No
the
second.
north side of Mount.
Second by Gao, any more on the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Public Works,
I'll make a motion to place the sign at, placement number 1.
motion by Hubbard,
I'll second it.
second by Ziegler, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed, motion carries.
Okay, this is gonna get ugly if these two committees don't agree. All right, so the next one. Help me out with where we are.
so this is, Metro Drive coming from Schofield and then Ross Avenue.
Okay,
Green Heck's kind of just off the page here,
okay,
so.
so you only have one recommendation here.
Yeah, so in the wayfinding plan, there's a bunch of speed limit signs and other signs right on the corner there, so we thought it'd be cleaner if you kind of moved it east a little ways.
It's right after that Green Heck Professional Building,
Correct, yeah.
used to be a pizza place, okay.
So move.
Moved by Gal,
Second.
second by Garnt, any more on the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Public Works,
I move.
motion by Zagami,
Second.
second by Hubbard, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Here we have just another one, just one option, one recommendation, correct?
Yeah, so the plan has it kind of over by, auto glass specialist, Burger King. I think it made more sense to have it by kind of Triggs, old Pizza Hut where Weston starts there, and there's more room in the right of way.
I agree. I agree. Lauren?
just a note that the border for the village of Weston actually follows business highways.
Yeah, it doesn't go this way anymore.
So. Yep. But it does the Pizza Hut. Motion by Gal, second by Garnt. Any more in the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Last, you go ahead.
Public Works,
I'll make a motion.
motion by Ziegler,
Second.
second by Hubbard. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed, motion carries.
So then this last one is a question of, the plan says to retrofit the existing sign at Normandy Street, which, looks like this, and the retrofit would be kind of a mock-up on the top. Coming off of the highway at Camp Phillips, there'd be two new signs built, like, looking like the one on the bottom. Just wanted to see if there was a need to want to be consistent with all of those signs of that shape, or if you're okay with having the one retrofit and then the two new builds as the plan lays it out.
I think everything should look consistent. That's just my 2 cents.
Everybody else agree?
Yep.
So instead of the retrofit on the top, we'd have all three looking like the bottom one.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Is there, just out of curiosity, is there any way that we could just make all 3 of them look like the one on the top? Has that been looked at or no? So we don't have to completely build an entirely new sign?
Do that too. I'm not sure
We
what's
spent an hour and a half in our committee on signs on that, but go ahead.
Okay, I just asking.
That's a nice way to put it, Mark.
No, honestly, they both look fine to me right now. Boy, back then it was a big deal, I'll tell you.
What's the cost?
So the top one looks like a Harley tank. You know, looks like a teardrop on a Sportster.
How much of a cost savings are we looking at?
I mean, we could bid it kind of both ways and, you know, once we get the cost back, I guess we can ask for the cost of a new one or the retrofit and see if there's much of a difference.
Go the new one.
I think that would be a good idea.
All three? Is that a motion?
Sure.
Okay, and then you're gonna bid it too though?
Yeah, we can bid it both ways.
Yeah, motion by Cronin,
Second.
second by Garnt. Any more in the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Public Works,
I move.
motion by Zagami,
Second.
second by Ziegler. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed, carries 400.
Okay, miscellaneous, remarks from staff? None? Committee, or I should say commission? Any commission, remarks? Okay, none from me either. Nate?
Any comments from, go ahead.
I just have a recommendation to the planning to think about the sign and location for municipal center. New municipal center.
Yes.
Location and the type of the sign should be similar to the existing one what we have. But the location of it. Oh,
Because I have a terrible internet. This is so damn important.
So the idea with the new municipal center would be to relocate the sign that's existing out here.
Not the directional one.
But like turn here for the municipal center.
Oh, yeah, the wayfind, yeah, those.
Wayfind.
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
because it's a little bit more complicated to get to it than over here.
Yep.
So,
Okay,
Anything else?
oh, thank you.
Then I will seek a motion to adjourn the Public Works and Utility Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ziegler, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Zagami, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, Public Works and Utilities adjourns at 6:06.
Looking for a motion to adjourn the plan commission
Move to adjourn.
by Minell, second by Cronin. No more, all in favor say aye. Opposed, so carried at 6:07. All right, or you wanna go right in the plan?